What's up, Roulette Fools? Brent with AOB. Okay, we're coming back with another strategy session here. This one's actually going to be two. So the first one I'm going to show you is one that I had done quite a while ago, and it's actually, people seem to enjoy it a lot. Mixie Mouse. Okay, so I'm going to show you that. I'm on the instant tables here because it gives me a little more time and gives me more favorites, so I can show each of these two strategies. This one's going to be Mixie Mouse, the original, and then Scout's House David submitted a while back a version of this called Minnie Mouse. I'll give you my thoughts on that here in a second. You can see I have these bets saved here. So what we're doing here is we're covering 20 numbers with 1 unit each. Okay. And on this first progression here, if you win, you get 80% profit of whatever you have down here. Okay, so in other words, we had $20, 80% of $20 is 16, and you can see our profit up there is already $16. Okay, so on Mixie Mouse, we have 3 changing progressions, three formats, and then after the third progression, at that point we martingale it up. Okay, so let's keep going here. I'm going to play each of these for about 10 minutes. And so you can kind of get an idea of how these two play, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. And I like this strategy a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I like the Mixie Mouse and why the configuration, what it is. I'll tell you as we get there. And you can put these 20 numbers, as long as they're consecutive, right? As long as they're consecutive and stacked on each other. You can put them on the second and the third column. You can move them right or left. If you want to cover the 1 and the 2, the first street or the last street, you can move it back and forth. All right, so far so good. Look at, we're already up $64. I caution you, this covers 20 numbers. That's basically an outside bet, 1-to-1 bet, right? This can go deep in the weeds. So I suggest you have at least 10 progressions if you can. Even more, I would prefer 12. I'll show you the progression chart here. I'll show you what it looks like with the cumulative loss, comparing this one with Minnie Mouse after we get underway here a little bit. But this one can go deep, just like outside bets can. All right. So on Mixie Mouse, when you lose, I save these bets in 3 distinct ways. And this is another reason I went on instant, so I can slow down. So on the after the first loss, we're going to rebet, and I'm going to add 1 unit on the 5 non-overlapping corners in the middle here. And hence where we got the name Mixie Mouse, because these look like those the Mickey Mouse hats from, maybe you're too young to remember that. But anyway, and the reason I like this strategy is this progression is because we're only adding 5 units to the next step. 1 hit anywhere in these 20 numbers gets you even again, okay? Get you even again. And another reason why I like saving these bets as separate bets, like here is step 2, is because if I wanted to, I can independently, here's a second step, right? With the 25 units, I could, if I wanted to, add a second unit if I felt like I wanted to be more aggressive. All right, let's go. So this is the second progression, and again, this is a break even. So wherever we hit, we're going to win $20. All right, we're going to win 20 units no matter where we hit on here at this stage right here. So I like it because your progression is slower, but it's a 1-hit recovery, and the profit on the first one is really nice. Okay, we lose there, and this is what I want. I want you to see how deep this can go. So we rebet, and I'm adding the third step, which will be the 4 corners here in between these 5 corners. So now we've gone from 20 units to 25 units to 29 units. It's a pretty slow progression. Now, if you're asking, hey, Brent, you don't need to cover these 20 numbers with individual units. You could put 4 units on the corner. You're exactly right. You can. So why do I do this? Oh, boy. Okay, so why do I do it this way? I do it this way because visually, when I look at it, I can see exactly what progression I'm at. If I put 4 units to begin on the corner, the next progression, I'm just adding 1. It'll be 5 units. All I see are corner bets. For me, visually, I just look at it and I can easily see where I'm at in my progression. after that third progression here, at this point, we're just going to martingale. Now, like I said, the reason why I like saving these bets as independent with just the 5 corners and then the 4 corners, oh my gosh, they are just crushing us, is because I'll show you right now. What we can do is rebet, martingale, and if I want to, I can add another unit in the middle. I'm going to add 2 more units to the 5 corners here, totally voluntary. And it's fine if you don't do that. I only do this once in a while. I'm doing this more for show. Normally, I just martingale. The recovery is pretty nice. Now, at this step, these outside wins, this 4th Street and down here, the 31 Street, they still profit, but they pay a little less than the inside numbers because it's not flanked on both sides by corner bets, right? There we go. There's a nice hit in the middle. All right, see where we take us. And see, that takes us pretty back up there. And I'm going to now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the third progression, which is 1 unit on everything. 1 unit on the straight ups, 1 unit on the 5 non-overlapping corners, and 1 unit on the 4 corners in between those 5 corners. But that's why I like saving these bets. And you can see over here, if you look right there, you can see I have them saved as independents. All right, there we go. So we're back up to 65. I'm going to go back to Mickey Mouse 1, Mixie Mouse. We're doing that for copyright. And we're going to go for about 10 minutes. And then we'll do the other one. I'll show you Scous's format modification to this one. It's very, very similar. He calls it Minnie Mouse to save. His idea was to make the bets a little bit lower so that you weren't putting out as much here. Actually, to me, what happens is the reverse of it. I find it's actually more expensive unit for unit, but it does recover quicker. And I'll show you that here in a second. Okay, there we go. We're going to go to second phase, rebet, and I go to 2. Here we go. Again, 1 hit here is an instant recovery. And then once you get to the third progression, it's going to take, you can win on the third progression and then step your bets down if you want to play conservative mode. This one here had a lot of, wow, they're just not being favorable for us so far. Okay, here we go. And we're going to go to Mixie Mouse 3. And I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to add a second 5 more units to these 5 corners here. So that's what's nice. If you are up in profit and you want to play a little bit more aggressive, you can just add these bets independently. Whereas if you save the entire progression bet, which would be the 20 numbers plus the 5 units, you'd have to step up the whole thing. My gosh, this table is just killing us on, we're going to double it up. Here we go. It's liking that third column on us today. Let's see if we can get some wins. We're already at a $68 bet. And again, once I bring up the version of this, the modified version from Scouse, then I will show you what it's, all right, here we go. I'm going to go down back to base third progression bet. So I'm going to go back down to third progression, $29 bet, and see if we can get a couple wins. With 20 numbers or less, or even 24 numbers, really progressions need to be king. Look at this. Now, this is where I like saving Mickey Mouse A and B, because I would, at this point, I would throw up, not throw up, I would move our bets up to the second and third column. You could play follow the winner with these. So there's different ways you can play this. And I definitely like having both of these saved rather than just sticking on the first and second column. All right, we're almost done with our 10 minutes. Let's see if we can't recover. Then we'll move over to David's modified version. He called it Minnie Mouse. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to call it. It's not a bad strat, so don't get me wrong. It's not a bad strat. It's very similar. It's the recovery is nicer. All right, so that's an outside bet. We still win, but it doesn't pay as much. And what the heck, we're going to go back in with a $63 bet and see if we can get an inside hit. I'm playing, at this point, I would actually go back down to base bet Mixie Mouse 1, because that's a $16 profit. That would put us at $67 back up top. But it paid off here. The gamble paid off. Boom. Nice. So we end up with $105. We went 9 and 8, which is pretty good, which is pretty spot on for covering 20 numbers on this wheel. All right, let's wipe that out. Let's get into Minnie Mouse now. The first bet is very similar. It's covering 20 numbers. He opted to do the two splits here. Again, yes, you could put 2 units on the corner, but I like the idea that he broke it out so it's easier to see as you're going through your progressions where you're at. Let's go. And let's get through the progressions here. I'll show you that. And then let's pull up the Excel chart so you can see the progression schedule and how many progressions and what you're going to need for this, especially with the $1. So I normally would not recommend playing this on the balance that we have, which is $1,000. It seems adequate, but trust me, when you see the chart and you say, oh, I see, then you'll go, okay, maybe I better bring my numbers down. All right, he hits his because he has his on the second and third, which I like. We're just going to rebet and play it now. So actually, let's pull it up right now. So you can see here on a 10-cent unit what it's at. Let's move that to a dollar unit so we can just go with 1 unit and see what that's looking like. And I'll bring this back up in just a second after this spin. Another nice hit right there. Boom. So whereas the original Mixie Mouse has a $20 starting bet, this one does have a $10 starting bet. So in that respects, this one definitely does have a lower initial bet. So you can see up here, if you're looking at the original, we start off with a $20 bet. It starts with 10. We make $18 profit. Okay, this one is going to make $8. We see we've won twice. We're at 16. But by the time you see the third progression here, we've already exceeded the amount that the original is. So by the third progression, it's actually a more expensive strategy. And I'll bring that back up. So what we're going to do is now, similar to the first, the original, we're going to add 1 unit to these 5 corners. Very similar at this point. Okay. So, but ratio wise, because the original has 4 units, right, in this area here, and then you add 1 unit in the middle, this has 2 units. So the recovery is going to be better at this stage. And it's actually going to be profitable by 2 units right here because the ratio, it's a 2-to-1 ratio instead of a 4-to-1 ratio when you add the second progression numbers here. All right, there we go. So that's in profit instead of a break even, which we would have had break even on the original. All right, let's pull this back up, Excel. So you can see by the third progression, whereas the original is a $29 unit, this one's a $30 unit. And you can see our cumulative loss would be 74. It's still less at 55 on the new version. And then, but as you start going by the fourth, if you lose on the fourth, you can see we would have lost 132 versus 122. So still more expensive on the original version. But you can see by the fifth progression, this is more expensive at 256. And your bets along the way are more expensive considerably. But if you go down here, let's take a look at how many progressions you should have here. You can see at $1 unit, so 1 unit, you can see I have flagged here in red. You would need a huge bankroll to have 10 progressions here. Right now, with what we have, we only have 7 progressions. Not enough. I'm telling you right now, not enough. All right, let's go to the second progression for David's. So that's what that looks like. Okay, let me pull this off the screen. I'm sorry in the last video, I'm trying to remember to pull the Excel file, any of these overlays I have up there because the last video, I think I left it up there for a while and it's like, oh, I'm covering the wheel. At least you got to see the table. So this one is definitely more aggressive, but I like it. It's got a faster recovery. So what we're doing is we're rebetting. Let me go back to what I show you what we had. We went from these 3 units per 4 corners, right? 1, 1, 1 on the splits and the corners across here. So now we're going to 3, which we've added 1 unit on the splits to each side, okay, and 1 unit in the middle. So you've added 3 units right across from the split, corner, split, and you've done that all these. We have a total of 30 units out, $30 bet, 30 units. And again, this is more aggressive, so the recovery is better. I believe this gets us right up there in 1 hit. So let's hope we can get a hit so you can see this. And again, these all pay the same because they're covered no matter which of these you hit, they're all covered the same. Unlike Mixie Mouse 3, the original, the ends do not pay the same. All right, there we go. There's a nice hit, and look at that. It brings us near break even back. We're going to go back to Mixie Mouse 1 or Minnie Mouse. So like I said, this one to me is actually more aggressive outside of the first couple of progressions. If you get past the first couple of progressions, it's actually more expensive. And this one has a better recovery, at least on those first couple. So I think I would call this Mixie Mouse. Mixie Mouse. I'm going to call this Mixie Mouse, not Minnie Mouse. I'm calling this Mixie Mouse, David, because this one's actually more aggressive outside of the first couple. All right, there we go. We are going to go to step 2 again. Keep going. Let's see how this goes. We're going to go, I talked here for a little bit, so we'll probably go to about 22, 23 total minutes there on the clock right there. And let's see how this one does. We did what, 100 some. Now I got pretty aggressive on that last one. So, all right, here we go. First time to 3, or the second time to the third round. Again, we've added 1 unit across from these splits from left to right. 1 unit on the splits on each side and 1 extra unit on the middle. I like the fact that if I were to play this, I would save these bets independent on the steps, only adding in the bets. Oh my gosh, this table does not like us. All right, now we get to the 4th progression. This is the final progression before we just start martingaling. You can see what we've done again is we've added 1 unit to all of these things, and we've added 1 unit on the corner split in between these clusters, okay? So you can see, and thankfully it's got a different color. So we've stepped up 1 unit on all of these, and we've added 1 unit in the middle. We're at a total 67 unit bet right now. 67 unit bet. Let's see, we're already down $38. Let's see how well we can recover here. We got down on the last one as well. So, all right, there we go. Let's watch the recovery. So look at that. The advantage of the more aggressive progressions, this is sort of like the difference between just a martingale on 9th Street or on 5 double streets and a hero progression where you're doing a much more aggressive. The advantage is you recover and profit in 1 hit versus taking multiple hits. The downside is your bankroll needs to be bigger, and if you get on a run, you're going to bust sooner or be much deeper in the hole a lot sooner than if you use original. So you have to decide which way you want. Like I said, you can actually effectively play either of these as aggressive or unaggressive as you want, because on the original, right, on the original Mixie Mouse, where you saw that I added just the second progression, I added the delta, the difference between the 2 progressions. I only added those 5 corners. You can stack those 5 corners. On the 3rd progression, we're adding 4 corners. You can stack those corners as you want. So you can make either of these as aggressive as you want to. But in their original form, the original reason, the logic behind the original Mixie Mouse was, how can we keep the progressions as small as possible, yet our recovery be within 1 or 2 spins, right? 1 or 2 spins. And that was the goal of, oops, this one I don't have stacked separately. I have the whole bet saved. I have the first progression, the second progression in its entirety saved, the third progression in its entirety saved, because this one's a little more complex with how the splits go, and I just wanted you to see that. But you could totally save these 5 corners independently on the second progression and do what I did on the other ones and just save the delta bet. And so you can manage those independently if you want to. All right, let's see where we go. We're at 19 minutes. Let's give it another couple spins here. We're doing well so far. 15, there we go. Boom. All right, let's keep going. Now, that's a second progression, so very nice. So you can see it not only rebounds, it goes into profit. So there is something to be said that I like very much about the more aggressive. We could, again, on the original Mixie Mouse, you could add the 5 corners on the second progression. You could add 2 of those if you wanted instead of just 1. But so far, so good. And if you think that you'll stay below 3 progressions and not get to the 4th, then this one definitely is a lower cost, although the profit is also lower. You could, on Mixie Mouse 1, cut the bets in half effectively. Instead of going to $1 units, you go to 50-cent units. And let's see what that would look like if we did that. I'm going to bring up the Excel again. And if we went over here to the original and did half units, 50-cent units, you can see the bet amounts, the cumulative loss, and the bets are actually on the second progression were actually cheaper. So if we were to cut it in half, we would be cheaper all the way down. And this first one would still win $8. They both win 80% on the first one. And, but the Mixie Mouse over here is more aggressive in that respect. Okay. So it would recover quicker than if we did it the original, but you could, if you wanted to, just scale down the original. So I don't think there's not, as with all strategies, there's not a right or wrong. I think if you played these both out, I think they would end up very similar at the end of if you play this a bunch of times, because just like playing 9th Street with hero progressions versus a normal martingale progression, I say they'll end out pretty much the same over time. I actually, in some respects, think that your chances of busting on the hero progression are higher. I think I would rather take, like on 9 Streets, I think I would rather take more progressions for the same unit amount, the same, than the hero progressions where you recover quicker and you have a better chance of making profit because your recovery is faster. Oh man. All right, here we go. We're up to 3. Let's go. Some of you don't like the instant tables. I love the instant tables. If you got disposable income and you're looking to play, check out the QR code up there. That will take you to Raised as an affiliate. And as an affiliate, you're going to be qualified. We do giveaways every single day of our live streams. We have a paid leaderboard. Raised on the site has a paid leaderboard, so you'll be eligible for 2 leaderboards. We do a lottery at the end of every month in which we take, based on how much you wager, you get 1 ticket per 5,000 wagered, and we draw 3 names and $100 each. We're doing the comment giveaways coming up here shortly in July, and we'll explain more of that later as we get closer, but we're going to pick 2 winners every video. I'll do the randomized drawing out of the comments section from the previous video. I'll do those on the video at some point. So stay tuned. We're adding a whole bunch of ways for you to make money. And lastly, submit a strategy to our Discord. If I play it starting in July, if I play it, it at least breaks even. Based on the number of views that video gets in the first 3 days, you'll be rewarded on a tier basis based on the number of views. Again, if it loses money, it's not eligible, okay? It's not eligible. All right, we're at 22 minutes. Let's play one more time and get one more win and at least recover. Or if we get a win, we'll call it here. But you can see we're up $64 with a $10 starting bet. I like Mixie Mouse very, very much. It's probably not a strategy that I'd use as a daily driver, but it's certainly something that I would put into, well, I already do, into musical strats. If you're not aware of musical strats, I go down the list. I play one strat after another, starting from a higher coverage, going lower, lower, lower coverage, basically playing with house money. There it is. There it is. We're ending up at $72. We actually had 14 and 10 wins. So we actually performed better as far as our win-loss ratio on this. And we ended up with $72. We went $110 or something, but we also went in the hole, probably deeper with that other one and a much bigger bet, maybe. I think so. I'd have to go back and look. I wasn't really paying attention. Let me know what you think in the comments. And again, if you have modifications, get in our Discord and post those modifications. That's what makes our community better, is taking something and improving it or giving modifications so other people can take a look at it and contribute to it. That's how we get better. All right, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in there. And again, if you're interested, you have disposable income, click that, scan that QR code up there. That'll take you to our Raised under the AOB affiliate. It'll open you up to free giveaways. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Be good humans, us against the casino. Play smart, okay? Play smart. It's you're your biggest enemy, and the only thing you can control in the casino is yourself. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.